to Good Follow presented by DraftKings. I'm Megan Reyes. Alongside me is Logan Hackett, and today we have a special guest, WNBA and college basketball analyst Ice Young, who played for both Florida and Syracuse in college before going on to play professionally in Greece. Ice, welcome to Good Follow. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, ladies. Thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited to chat hoops with you.
Well, let's talk about it because college basketball is finally back. And after saying goodbye to a legendary group of players last season, returning stars are set to shine. So are Paige, Juju, and others up for filling the shoes of Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, or are those shoes just too big to fill? What are your thoughts, Ice?
Yeah, I definitely think they're going to get filled. I think what we're going to see this year is just more names, more stars across the board as a whole. I've been really impressed early with, I guess, the media attention that college basketball has gotten and just all the hype and the social media. Like, I feel like the women's side now is here. Like, we don't have to beg for attention. We don't have to beg for anyone to watch these games. We know that people are invested. I keep reminding people that before the WNBA season took off, it was because of all the momentum that the college season has brought. And yes, it was a terrific class of rookies that entered the W, but it was also some other young players that were in that mix that I'm sure we'll get to talking about. But I think we're just going to see more stars overall. And we've got some different coaching changes too. We're seeing some coaches now kind of retiring and stepping aside, maybe due to NIL. And so we've got also some different coaches around the country to focus on this year.
Well, week one certainly hasn't disappointed because earlier this week, Juju Watkins was dropping buckets like this. Let's take a look.
By Marshall. Here's Watkins, pull up three.
So smooth.
So she kicked off her sophomore season with 27 points, 10 rebounds, and 5 blocks, picking up right where she left off last season. So if we look at her freshman stats compared to Caitlin Clark's, should Caitlin be worried about her scoring record over the next few years, as long as Juju's still in school?
Man, I don't know. I tell you what, though, it's so funny. Like, now we have that as a goal, because of Caitlin Clark. Like, now we know that that is attainable because of the way in which we shoot the three now and how many possessions are in the women's game because it continues to get faster. And I feel like if there was a player that we could say might break that record, Juju has definitely got all the tools plus the confidence and the perfect situation on a team to get up that many shots in order to get the scoring record. I think half of getting the scoring record is just having the ball that much and being able to shoot that much. Like, you need an uber green light. Triple is not enough. It needs to be like 6 quadruples. And so, yes, I feel like Juju could be that person, but I think she's on the setup of a team as well that could allow for her to be that over the course of the next couple of years, if she stays at USC, obviously.
Logan, what are your thoughts?
Absolutely. Yeah. I also want to see her break Ayoka Lee's single game scoring record. I think it's like 61 or something crazy. But if she does that, then she is absolutely like on the trajectory. But every time I think of Juju, it takes me back to that game against Stanford last year when she put up 51 points. And I think they won like 67, 63 or something. Yeah. With the team, like on that Stanford team was Kiki Ryfin, Cam Brink, Hannah Jump. Like, that is a high caliber team, and she just ran through them. So I think she can, and I'm really excited to see it.
Yeah.
Okay, so this might be like an early prediction because the season literally just started. But how long are you predicting Juju stays in school?
I mean, that's a great question. If I'm Juju, especially with the way that NIL is going, I know it's not all about money, but if it's about playing basketball, maturing and getting better in a safe environment and making the bag while you can, I'm at least staying another 2 years, this year and next year. But if I was her, I think I'd stay all 4 years. To me, there's no rush now in getting to the W, right? Like, you understand what's at stake. You understand what you can build in school. And so why not take your time to build it? I also think, though, we don't want to, at least I don't, I think, want to suggest that players start to leave school early to go to the W. Like, we already know with NIL and transfer portal that the student part of student athlete is going down the drain. It's being watered down, especially with conference realignment. So I also want these young ladies to stay in school, to still get their degrees, and to still take 4 years to mature on the basketball court. So when she gets to the W, she's ready to make an impact similar to Caitlin's or bigger.
Perfectly said. Well, let's go over in the Big East. UConn starts the season ranked number 2, and Paige Beckers is expected to have one of her best seasons yet. UConn won 4 straight titles from 2013 to 2016, but have since been in a drought. So I would love to know from either of you, is this the year they finally finish back on top?
I low-key don't think so. I don't know why. There's just maybe because we've been seeing them lose or like making it really close to the Final Four and then just kind of like crash out there. I think they have the team. We have AZ back, you have Paige, but I think there's so much parity in women's basketball right now that other teams are going to excel. They have more of a full team to really get the job done.
Yeah, that's a good point. Here's what I'll say about, the last time they won a championship, like it was a dynamite team. It was a dynamite team. Like they had won 4 in a row, and it was a dynamite team on both sides of the basketball. Obviously, with the way in which Paige and hopefully AZ can stay on the court, I chatted with her a couple of weeks ago at Big East Media Day, and she's saying she's healthy. She feels 100%. So she's able to stay on the floor with Paige. Then you have obviously a tremendous leadership, shooting ability, and like backcourt. But my question is almost, can UConn guard everyone else? I think they can score with the best of them. I think they can run the best offense. They're efficient with their basketball. Obviously, Gino Auriemma knows what he's doing. But I think my question down the stretch will be, can they guard a USC where they've got to take care of Kiki and Juju plus and company that can also win you games? And then I'm curious about Sarah Strong. She is their, 5-star recruit, their freshman that they brought in that'll be playing inside. She was also at Big East Media Day. But anytime that you're relying on, a first-year player as your main interior presence, you are going to experience ups and downs. There's nothing about it. It's the same thing we're going to see with South Carolina and the Gamecocks. They have Joyce Edwards, who is a freshman, who notable 5-star recruit, but their main inside presence right now. For a team under Dawn Staley that loves to score inside, there is going to be a time where you have to kind of figure it out because this new young freshman has to adjust. And so I think it'll be key as well for UConn to see how well they can get Sarah Strong to develop, and can she be a high caliber post player her freshman season. And in order to win a national championship, she's got to be very on point and very mature in a few months in the season. Not that UConn can't produce that, but I think that will be extremely important for them, is more of their inside presence.
So a sort of similar question as we had with Juju, but right now LA Sparks have the best odds of landing the number 1 overall pick. So do you think that Paige will go to the W and join Cam Brink and Rickea Jackson in form? They're sort of a big 3 in LA.
Yeah, no, for sure. First of all, talk about a big 3 in terms of personalities too, ladies. Like, I cannot imagine being in that locker room and the 3 of them being on the same team and like all the style, all the fashion sense. It'll be crazy. But I totally agree. What I really liked about the LA Sparks and watching them this season, but even before Cameron Brink got hurt, was that you could tell they were building. They were a young team that was building fast. Rickea Jackson got tremendously better over the course of the season because she had time to be on the court and really develop. And so we know that Paige is an immediate impact player. She immediately brings up a team's efficiency. I remember last year when Gino Auriemma was telling us that he felt like he had the most efficient player in college basketball. And I was like, yes, I agree with you. I think you do. And so that would mean that he has the most efficient this year as well. But I think that's what's going to make her game so dynamic at the next level, is that she's not going to need to change much. It's almost like Rickea Jackson. Rickea didn't need to change much, Logan. She already came into the W and was seasoned and pro ready, and then just had to get adjusted and get time on the court. But yeah, I'm excited for what that could look like for Paige. I'm also just excited too, if we can see Paige win a championship. I think if you play UConn women's basketball and you don't win one, it's almost like, did you really play? Did I just say that on the podcast? But no, I'm serious though. Like, did you really play? I don't know. Think about all the UConn greats that we know. They all have a national championship, collegiate national championship tied to their name. And so Paige could be one of the greats that we've seen that maybe don't, which would be very uncharacteristic of any team that Gino Auriemma has coached.
Well, let's talk champions. And you already brought up South Carolina, but as we know, they are defending their title and they return almost the entire roster from last year's undefeated season. But they did lose, of course, Camila Cardoso, and it was evident in Monday's game against Michigan after barely holding on to the win. So after the game, Dawn Staley said, obviously, we've got some players that have to make adjustments to certain roles on our basketball team, and that takes a little bit of time. And then guard Tessa Johnson said, Camilla was very dominant down there. If we were struggling, we could honestly just throw it up there and she would rebound or make a shot or get a foul. When she was out there, it would calm us down a little bit. So way too early prediction. Should we be worried about the defending champions?
Absolutely.
No.
Absolutely not.
You don't count out Dawn Staley.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. You don't count out Dawn Staley. I'm from South Jersey, so I grew up watching her coach like in Philly, so I definitely don't. But I think too, it's the beauty in just like great players graduating, and what's a real testament of how great someone is who they bring in and how the team adjusts. Yes, she brought back everyone, but I even think there's some question marks that still even South Carolina is going to have to answer this year. Is their three-point shooting still going to be a consistent calling card? Our team's going to force them to shoot more because they don't have a 6'7" big inside now that they can just throw to, and she can catch over everyone and finish. I love that Tessa Johnson acknowledged that about Camila Cardoso. Is when you're watching their games now, even their first one versus Michigan, it was easy to see that this is just a different team. This is a bit of a different makeup. They're going to have to figure it out. Logan, though, my hot take is that they're going to figure it out through Chloe Kitts. I think it's going to be Chloe Kitts that they figured out through. I like her aggressiveness. I like her at the 4. I like her versatility. And I feel like she has the mindset too. Like Camilla also came with a dog mindset. I feel like Chloe Kitts has that.
Oh, I love that. I love Chloe as well. But what I was going to say is they have the blueprint of Camilla. I mean, she is extremely hard to replicate. I don't think you can replicate her. But someone like Dawn Staley is either going to try with the talent that she has or come up with a different plan. I mean, it's Dawn, it's South Carolina. They can definitely figure it out somehow. And that's what we're going to see.
Yeah.
Okay, so a follow-up after this. South Carolina are currently on a 39-game win streak, but they have a tough stretch of games coming up, which let's take a look at their schedule. NC State, UCLA, Iowa State, and SC, which all on the road. So when do you think we could see the streak come to an end?
I don't know. I mean, first of all, it'd be a bold take if I think that they're going to repeat as champs and not lose, right? And again, it's a team with a different makeup. Last year's team maybe didn't need to lose. Like, I think they were mature enough. They had been there before. They understood what it was like to use the year before. So they were able to kind of build off of that. So I'll say that I think a loss this season for South Carolina could be good. Like it could be for anyone. You face a little adversity. You have to figure things out. You have to look at the drawing board, and it makes you stronger. I'm not necessarily wondering if they'll lose any of those. I'm wondering how they look to compete. If game to game early in the season against very top competition, do they look consistent and the same? Or as you just pointed out, do they have to, as you point out, Logan, like, do they have to win in different ways depending on who they play? And again, Dawn Staley has had the same system for a very long time. She is so old school. So there haven't been a ton of games in which she's won a different way outside of her system. But with the makeup of this team, I think that might challenge the 3-time national champion.
I also found last year that they were absolutely demolishing like the lower ranked teams, but when it got to mid-range, they almost played down to them in a way. Like those games, there wasn't a huge range when it comes to score, but then they get back up to like a top 5 team and they're right there. So I think that'll be this week or this stretch of games would be a huge testament to how they perform in that situation versus last year.
Yeah, I totally agree. And obviously some of those games, they're playing those top opponents back to back. So early, what can you see in terms of recovery from a mental standpoint, but also a physical standpoint going into the next tough challenge? And some of those teams have very good defensive schemes this year. They're a little bit longer than they were the year before. But obviously, you know, being a national champion and then going undefeated, the target on your back is like bigger than a target, right? It's the biggest bullseye possible. And so I think this team will also have to weather the storm as it comes. I think teams will give more than they had last year towards South Carolina for sure.
So before we move on to our sort of mini game, we don't have time to get to every team in college hoops, of course, but other than USC, UConn, and South Carolina Ice, who are some teams we should look out for this season?
Yes. Okay. I love this question. First, the Notre Dame Irish. Oh my goodness. I'm a huge fan of head coach Niele Ivey and what she's done. She's the common thread for Notre Dame in terms of when they win a national championship. She's either been on the team or been assistant coaching for the team. I love the backcourt combination of Olivia Miles and Hannah Hidalgo. We saw the first game of the season. Olivia Miles recorded a triple-double. She was out last season due to injury. So I like that she's back. I think that they'll have the best backcourt in the country. and I cover them a lot through the ACC. And so they're returning ACC champs. Another team I tell you to keep your eye on is Texas women's basketball. The return of Logan loves this. The return of Rory Harmon, an All-American point guard. She was out last year for the majority of the season, and due to an injury, I think she played 12 games. But she returns now, and now the sophomore Madison Booker is a sophomore. She's the only player that we've ever seen win Big 12 Player of the Year as a rookie. And so I'm excited for also Texas to go back to the SEC. That means that we get Vic Schaefer and Dawn Staley showdowns regularly, which I love. I also was very impressed with Ole Miss. I thought that Ole Miss played a very good game against USC. I thought their defense was very good, which Coach Yo is known for. But what they showed early, along with their defense, they could go again and make a very deep run into the tournament, because all you need is defense to win on the road sometimes. Yeah, I feel like those are the teams that I've kept my eye on besides the ones that we have chatted about. I'm trying to think if there are any others.
I love Texas, especially because Madison Booker came in. She was a freshman. She didn't even play point guard, and she ran the team. Like, she was that core of the team as a freshman to take over Rory Harmon, which is like a huge role to begin with. But she's listed as a forward this year. So she's back in what she feels comfortable in, along with that team and Rory. I think it's going to be really good.
Yeah, I took a trip a couple weeks ago and did media training with their team. That was one of the questions I asked her, was like, how excited are you to get Rory back on the court? She's like, oh, I'm great. Like, I don't have to be the point guard now. I can let Rory do it. But also, though, we know that's probably not going to happen, because how dynamic will they be if they have two All-American point guards that are on the ball at the same time, and their offense can flow from both of them? We've seen before what a point forward, looks like in the women's game and how dominant that can be. And so I'm excited for Maddie to continue to grow and step into that and her growth, and then get Rory back on the court. I think before Hannah Hidalgo, it was Rory Harmon that was the best two-way guard we've seen across the country, that could defend anybody but also score on anyone. And so I'm excited again for just more stars, like more names to be brought to the front, and we get to watch tons of basketball. I will say the one con, guys, is conference realignment. I am covering the ACC, and I just cannot imagine a team like Pitt going and playing in North Carolina, and then their next game is at Stanford. So I'm very aware of what these athletes are going through. I think through my coverage, I'll ask a bit more about that in terms of how they're managing it, because we're in a time that's unprecedented. We've never seen athletes treated like this before. And it begs the question, yes, you are still student athletes in college, but how much of this is becoming professional, and how much of them do they feel like they're professional athletes now and not college athletes? So that'll be something that I kind of keep track through as I go through the season.
Well, I'll definitely be following along, because that's always been my biggest thing since conference realignment got brought up. How is this physically possible? So please ask those questions, because I will be waiting for their answers. But before we let you go, Ice, we want to play a little bit of game, because everyone loves a too early prediction. We're only about a week into the season, but we're gonna do some early predictions of our own. So I'm gonna say a sentence, and then Logan, Ice, you're gonna fill in the blank. Just first thing that comes to mind, because that's what makes this more fun. Are y'all ready?
Yeah.
Okay. First up, outside of Juju Watkins and Paige Beckers, this year's player to watch is...
Oh, mine is Kiki Iriafen.
Okay.
Olivia Miles.
Okay. Next, this year's surprise team will be...
TCU.
Ooh. Notre Dame. I like TCU, though. That's a good hot pick. I hope Haley Van Lith has a fantastic year. If nothing else this college basketball season, I sincerely hope she has a fantastic year and she gets everything she needs to build her profile to try to play in the W. I think she wanted that last year. It didn't happen, and I hope she gets it this year. So yeah, we're rooting for TCU.
Okay, so then the 2025 Final Four will consist of which four teams? We'll go with you first, Logan.
Ooh, LSU, South Carolina. Let's go with Texas, and I say LSU, UCLA.
Okay.
Ooh, I like that, Lauren Betts. I'm going to go UConn, Texas, Notre Dame, and USC.
I like. Okay. And then lastly, 2025 champions will be
South Carolina.
I was going to say South Carolina is not in my Final Four, so now I have to.
I was going to say USC as in the Trojans, not as in South Carolina.
Oh, correct. Absolutely.
Okay.
South Carolina. So then we're going to go South Carolina.
Okay.
We're going to let Dawn go back to back.
So we have Dawn going back to back for both of you?
You
Run it
can't
back.
go against Dawn.
You
You can't go
can't.
against Dawn. It's almost like going against Jesus. It just doesn't
It
make
is.
sense.
Okay, well, we are all aligned there. And then before we go, Ice, the foundation of this show is that communities get built one good follow at a time. And every week we do a good follow where one of us shares a person, page, brand, whatever it may be, who are doing cool things in sports and women's sports. So I would love to know, who is your good follow of the week?
Yeah, my good follow is a good friend of mine, Shantiana Keys. She does tons of content on TikTok. She covers women's basketball, pop culture, also very good on IG as well, and has a podcast. But anytime I feel like there's some adversity in the women's basketball community, she has a very beautiful comedic spin to it, while also still telling us what we should pay attention to and what's important. So I love Shantiana. She's my friend out of Georgia. A little Southern too, which I think always adds just, I like listening to Southern people talk. Like, I just think I'm from Jersey, so it's so nice to me. But she's my favorite because of her comedic spin. She is literally hilarious.
Okay, what are her handles? Where can we find her?
It is at Shantiana, and that starts with a SHANTEONA, and then Keys, KEYS. And that's her on IG and TikTok. TikTok is her main platform, though. So all you young kids, you go over there and follow her on that.
Well, Ice, it was so much fun having you on the show. We'll have to have you back to talk more women's hoops, but thank you for joining us.
Yes, thank you both. Thank you, Logan and Meg, for having me. It was
Thank
great to
you.
chat with you guys.
Well, coming up, Logan and I talk all things NWSL playoffs. We'll be right back. Welcome back into Good Follow. It is my favorite time of year because NWSL playoffs are officially here. So Logan and I are going to break down some of this weekend's quarterfinal matchups. First of all, Logan, how are you feeling about NWSL playoffs? Can you believe it's this time of year?
I'm excited. No, actually, given the whole season that we had, I feel like last year it was so chaotic leading up to playoffs and it kept on going. And now it's just kind of smooth sailed. But I'm excited and I want there to be chaos because we haven't had a lot.
Well, okay, let's talk about it because first matchup that we're going to discuss are Gotham and Portland. And in a rematch of the 2023 semis, Gotham will face Portland on their road to becoming the first back-to-back NWSL champions. But as we know, Portland are coming off a big 3-0 win to close out the season, led by soon-to-be retired forward Christine Sinclair with this goal. Let's take a look.
Smith turning on Gordon. Smith slows all the way across. Sinclair! Sinclair! It had to be one more time.
Okay, so I struggle with this video because as someone who covers Angel City a lot and is close with the players, and then someone who also tries to remain objective when it comes to the league. This is hard because this is like, it's tough to see it ricocheted off the goalkeeper and then Christine got to tap it in. But then at the same time, for her to have that goal at what might be her last home game in Portland in the pouring rain was as cinematic as it could possibly get. So what a way for her to finish home in Portland. But if they play like this week, as they did against Angel City, do you think Gotham would be on upset watch?
I don't think so. And the only reason is because Gotham is too dominant right now. I mean, they put up 3 goals against Angel City, yes, but they're one of the worst defenses in the league, whereas Gotham has the best defense in the league. So I think it's a matter of that. And also Gotham has been here before. They know what it takes to win. They've had 14 goals in the last 4 games. That's kind of like, that's way up there compared to what Portland's been doing. But with that said, they are the 2 teams who have beat Orlando this season. Orlando only has 2 losses. So maybe they could go head to head. I don't know, but they're going to have to keep on scoring. And Christine Sinclair is going to maybe have to keep on scoring as well.
We'll get into this later. I could maybe see an upset because I would also argue Portland have definitely been here before as well. They have a lot of the same players on their roster that won back in 2022. And if with Sophia Smith, healthy and some of their other players healthy, if they could figure it out, maybe. But yeah, I agree. Gotham they're very dominant. I mean, they have a stacked roster.
Oh yeah. To go with your point though, everybody is playing for Christine right now. And it's
Mhm.
so beautiful to see. But I mean, imagine going into a game with a GOAT like that's career on the line and not being like, okay, we have to win for her. I feel like that's pretty much what they're doing right now. So I could see it.
I'm calling it. If there's going to be an upset this weekend, I think it may be in this matchup.
Hot take.
So let's move on to the Pride. As we know, Orlando have been the front runners to win the championship all season long. Their first round matchup against Chicago this weekend should be, in theory, an easy win, but they have lost 2 of their last 3. And with Gotham on the rise, KC Current looking very solid, and Washington coming back to almost full strength, do you feel, Logan, that the championship is still Orlando's to lose?
It's so hard because based on the whole season that they've had, I think, yes, I'm not good with metaphors or whatever this is, but I wouldn't be surprised if they lose. But I think based on the season that they've had, like they kind of not deserve to win. On paper, they would be winning. With that said, when it comes down to playoffs, none of that stuff matters at all. It's all about in the now. So I think they would be the front runner, but if they lose, I wouldn't be surprised because of what the other teams are doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I like the point you make of they had a very historic regular season, but you can't rest on those laurels because we're in the here and now when it comes to playoffs. So if they can maintain the same game plan that they've been doing all season and continue to look ahead, then yeah, I think it's absolutely within their reach. But yeah, these other teams are coming for them. They've been coming for them all season. And now with playoffs on the line, obviously everything's single elimination, like it's win or go home. But I think it's going to be a tough one.
Yeah, especially if I'm not too sure. I don't remember what the bracket is set like, but if they could face KC, I think that'll be their toughest shot to get to the finals. Maybe it'll be in the finals, I'm not too sure. But KC wants to beat them and they want to beat them badly.
They are on the same side of the bracket. So if both KC and Orlando win, they would play in the semis.
Oh my goodness. Drama. I think that's where they lose, to be honest.
Okay, so we have them taking the what, like we said, should be an easy win against Chicago, and then going on to play KC.
Love
Spicy.
it.
I like it. Okay. Well, an exciting one also, Bay FC made the playoffs, and not only did they make it in their first season as an expansion team, but they also set a record for most wins by an expansion team in their inaugural season. However, none of those wins came against Washington Spirit, and they are visiting the number 2 seeded Spirit this weekend. And while their chances of moving on to the semis might be kind of slim, I don't know. Like we said, it's NWSL. Anything could happen. Logan, how promising do you think Bay FC are in this league?
Extremely promising. I mean, even if you look at the start of the season, I think they lost the first 9 games or were in last after the first 9 games, something like that. And then they just started to rise. But also when you look at their roster, having a player like Rachel Kudnanji, the most expensive player in the league on your roster in the first year, that's crazy. Abby Dahlkemper, that's crazy. Asisat Oshwala, like the future is so bright. And if they keep on adding to that team or even just kind of creating the legacy that they know how to work with and have had talented players like that, then they're going to continue to do extremely well.
And I think also it's important to note that Bay have been without Alex Loeta, their captain, for almost the whole season because she's been out with injury. She's been in the league a really long time, and having her back in the defense and as a leader in future seasons is going to be huge for them. And yeah, I think I love when an expansion team makes the playoffs, and maybe they'll have a Cinderella story like San Diego did 2 years ago and go much further than people would have expected for an expansion team. I don't know, but you think Spirit take this one easily?
I don't know if it'll be that easy, but I think maybe by like 2 goals instead of 3. The more I think about it, the more I'm like, wait, this is Washington. If they're fully healthy, and even if like Ashley Hatch is on, that can kind of take the weight off of somebody else like Trinity or McKenna Morris even. So as long as they're all firing, then I think they should be okay.
Okay, well, let's actually talk about a team that didn't make the playoffs. Let's discuss Seattle Reign for a minute. They went from competing for the championship last year and losing to Gotham, as we know, to finishing 13th this season, which second to last in the league. As we know, they, of course, lost Megan Rapinoe to retirement. And then you have stars like Rose Lavelle and Emily Sonnet moving to Gotham in free agency. But what else do you think went wrong for Seattle this season?
So to be honest, I didn't watch a ton of them this season, but I was looking at the roster and I was like, all right, let me start with the goalkeepers. Did something go wrong here? Nope, they kept all three. And then you go to the defenders and it's right there. They lost Sonnet, Alana Cook, Sam Hyatt, and Alyssa Melanson, who just got her first call up. But Sonnet and Sam Hyatt are on Gotham, the best defense in the league. And then Alana Cook is cooking with KC. They didn't really bring anybody in to make as much of an impact as that core did. So I'd honestly say it's the defense right now. I'm not too, have you seen them scoring in their offense? Like, what did they have as much of a loss there?
I mean, the thing is they still, like, they did lose Bethany Balcer in free agency because, as we know, she joined Louisville. And from what I've kind of read online, I think that was she wanted out. But they still have scorers. They have Veronica Latsko and they have Jordan Heidema. So they have people who are certainly capable of scoring. But yeah, maybe it starts with just the back line and the midfield. I don't know if they're just not. Truthfully, I'll be transparent as you. I haven't watched as many of their games this season as I should have. But maybe they just aren't creating enough chances for their scorers to finish. But yeah, I don't know. Like, they did lose, like you said, a lot of very key players this last season. But things just didn't really go Seattle's way this year.
Even having someone like Jordan, I feel like she's the type of player that you can really capitalize on. Granted, even her international season, I don't think has been how she's hoped it to be. But I feel like almost how KC uses Temwa, feeding her balls and kind of making sure that she's the priority player. They definitely had the opportunity to do that with her, but they haven't.
And I think too, where Jordan excels are those set pieces and her using her height and getting the headers in. And if those chances aren't being created, then she's not scoring the way that you want her to.
If we had a game of, what was it, reboot, reload, recycle, they'd be reboot.
You would reboot Seattle?
Yeah.
Okay, I like that. I like that. Okay, last one on this topic. Are there other teams that you expected to be better this season than they ended up performing?
I said this last week, but San Diego.
Yeah, man.
It just floors me how you can have 11 players on the last international window and just not really perform throughout the season. Granted, you lose Alex Morgan. That's huge. But you need the other players. I mean, you have Naomi, Jaden Shaw. Their roster on paper looks like one that would be doing really well, almost like a Gotham type roster, but they didn't perform like it.
Well, it begs the question how much of the organizational issues that San Diego have had, how much that's bled over onto the field with Casey Stoney being replaced early in the season, and then the issues they've had in the front office. Like, when you have that talented of a roster, it makes you wonder what's going on behind the scenes.
I'd be so interested to see if they kept Casey on, because I mean, bringing in a coach when they did, it didn't really make sense other than like to kind of make it into the playoffs. And that's definitely not what happened. So maybe we boil it down to that. But yeah, I definitely agree with you on that front office standpoint.
For me, it's, and I say this one a lot, but again, for how much I cover and pay attention, Angel City's season was pretty disappointing for me. They were able to edge into the playoffs last year, which was a huge win. They missed it, kind of had it in their hands. I mean, they have talented players. That's the thing. You have Alyssa Thompson, you have Sydney LaRue scoring goals. Kristen Press is back on the field. You have a defender like Sarah Gordon. Allie Riley, their captain, being out most of the season with an injury was painful for them. But a lot of those games, like, they were either leading or they came back and then they're just giving up late goals and they're either drawing or losing games that they should have gotten 3 points. So that was definitely disappointing for me.
Even having Giselle and Alyssa Thompson on that roster, like, there's young, there's middle, there's veteran players. I mean, they have a little bit of it all. But actually, as you said that, I just thought of the impact that they have off of the field as well. And I would love to see a team like that win, who have kind of gone through it. The way that they came into the league has been very, very good. Their social presence, their merch, everything, like, they're doing it right. But they're not winning. So I kind of feel for them in that sense, but I would like to see a team like that win.
Yeah. And like, In a city like LA where every team has won something and you're expected to win, I won't be surprised if we see some shakeups this offseason because they have the potential. They have everything else going right, but they got to start winning some more games and competing for that championship. Okay, so let's move on to regular season awards. As we know, the season's coming to an end. So it is time for awards consideration, and the actual awards will be announced in a few weeks. So in the meantime, we're going to hand out some of our own, and we're going to do this a little bit of rapid fire, but I would like to know your thoughts on why you have these as your choices. So we're going to start with rookies. Logan, who is your 2024 Rookie of the Year?
Okay, I don't know it's not qualification, the requirements needed, like if you have to play every game, but I'm going with Croy Bethune because she only played in 17 games before tearing her ACL and still leads the league in assists. She gave everyone the time to catch up and nowhere to be found. So she also made the Rookie of the Month 4 times, which is a record. Yeah. So I'd have her there. If you have to play the whole season, then I'd probably give it to McKenna Morris, who's on Washington as well.
I'm with you. I have Croy Bethune for all the same reasons. To be out since September, and then the next behind you on the assist board is Alyssa Thompson by like 3 assists. 2.5 months after you go out for injury, and 4-time Rookie of the Month. Yeah, I think you're Rookie of the Year in my book. Okay, let's move on to goalkeeper. I'll share my thoughts. I want to hear yours. So Houston's Jane Campbell, as we know, leads the league in saves. However, I think this one has to go to Anna Morehouse, Orlando Pride's goalkeeper, simply because she leads the league in shutouts with 13 for a team that went undefeated almost the whole season. And I think that in itself speaks for itself and is why I think Anna Morehouse should be goalkeeper of the year.
I have the exact same pick. I mean, her season was really impressive, especially considering how bad Houston was. But Anna, I don't think Orlando would have got that done if it wasn't for Anna.
Yes, agreed. Okay, so we're agreed on Croy and Anna Morehouse. All right, let's go on. Well, we know that Temwa Chwenga took home Golden Boot. She had that one wrapped up well before the season was over. But let's actually talk about defenders. Who do you have as your defender of the year? This one was hard for me, so I'm excited to hear what you have to say.
It was really hard for me too. And I think my answer might be a little media biased. I'm not too sure. I'd love to hear yours, but I'm going with Naomi Girma, who deserves to win not only this Defensive Player of the Year, but the international one as well.
Okay. I'm so glad you brought her up because I was torn. And I actually have Defender of the Year as Emily Sams, who defender for Orlando. However, I was going to say you can't have a Defender of the Year conversation without bringing up Naomi Girma. She has had an incredible international year. At the same time, if we're looking solely at NWSL, Emily has had the better year. But yeah, I think despite San Diego's season, you can't leave Naomi out of the conversation. So I'm like, I don't hate on yours at all. Okay, so with that said, let's talk MVP. Who does your 2024 MVP belong to?
Temwa Chwenga, all the way. No one has ever done it like her.
No, I think it's hands down Temwa Chwenga, period. I mean, to have this, like we talked about a couple weeks ago, to have the season you had in your first year in the league, I don't know what else you have to say.
The fact that Sam Kerr's time in the league was also talked about literally up until this year, until Temwa came into conversation. I'm saying a lot because Sam has been out of the league for a while now. And so the fact that Temwa's up there, I'm pretty sure she's from Malawian. I wish they were kind of more of a force in the international stage because then we'd be hearing so much more about her. But I mean, there's no competition here.
Yeah. I think it's Temwa. And I think, as we talked about, even when it comes in the W, the definition of MVP itself, it's so valuable to your team. And Casey's success this season has been in large part due to Temwa. So I think that's what MVP in itself means. So I'm glad that, we are aligned on everything.
We got this. We are the NWSL. Mentally.
Well, up next, Logan and I rank iconic NWSL moments of the season. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Good Follow. We've covered the playoffs, but now it's time to step back and celebrate some unforgettable moments from the NWSL season. So today we're going to play Blind Ranker NWSL Edition. So here's how it works. Logan and I will see a clip from the NWSL season, and we will each rank it 1 to 5 without seeing the other clips. So this should be fun. Are you ready to go?
Ready to overthink everything.
Okay, let's see the first one.
Press. Going towards goal. Press with the shot. Press. 1-0 Angel City. She's back.
Oh man, starting with this one is tough. Okay, so the background here for our Good Follow viewers, Kristen Press, NWSL and U.S. Women's National Team legend, was out for over 2 years with an ACL injury. She had over 4 knee surgeries, returned to play, scored this goal, and I think it's first goal since 2022, June 2022. And what I think is so special about this clip is even after all this time away from the game, you saw how many defenders were on her, because that's the type of attention she demands and earns in the box. So anyways, where are we ranking Kristen? And this is such a hard one to start with because I would put this at 1, but
yeah, maybe we put it at 2 because I also love the celebration, how she just ran to her teammates and they're all so happy for her. I'd be good with 2 if you're good with it.
I'm good with 2. I think it's just such a special moment. That's why I'm like, oh, that's a hard one to come right out the gate.
Right.
Okay, we'll go with 2. Okay, let's see the next clip.
Chawinga shoots, it's in! Temwa Chawinga. The record is hers.
Okay, Temwa Chawinga, who we talk a lot about on this show, breaking the record for most goals in a season. She now holds that record at 20 and is the 2024 Golden Boot winner. And she's the first NWSL player to score against all 13 league opponents, so all of 13 other teams in one season. So where do we rank this one?
I have no clue.
I'm kind of thinking
her.
I'm trying to think 4.
I'm trying to think of what they have coming next.
I know.
I feel like they play with us every single game.
The thing is, I can see what's coming next, but I don't want to spoil the fun.
Let's go with 4.
The reason I think 4 is it was a great goal and it's obviously a great moment, but I feel like there's something coming that we don't know about.
Absolutely.
4? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see the next video. Okay, so this is Kelly O'Hara's incredible save, which was a header. And Kelly, as we know, announced her retirement earlier this season, but she has an incredible legacy. Obviously, two-time World Cup winner, Olympic gold medalist, has won NWSL championship twice. Where are we ranking Kelly's really incredible save?
I don't want to put it at 5.
Okay, me too.
Okay, good.
Okay, so we'll say Kelly O'Hara at 5. We've got Temwa at 4, Kristen Press at 2. 3 and 1. They better be good. All right, let's give us our next video.
Chawinga brought it down right at the spot, and it's another one for Kansas City. The Current just pouring it on here in their home opener.
All right, so this is also Kansas City, but instead of Chawinga, it's Alex Pfeiffer scoring in her professional debut. And this goal made her the youngest goal scorer in NWSL history at 16 years old. Where do we put this clip?
That celebration was... Yeah, I completely agree. The celebration was so confident, the way she ran. So she had that all planned and then she stood up I just did that. But I feel like we can't put her above Kristen. So
no.
3.
See, this is where the game is so tricky, because if we had seen this first, I would have put her at 5 and Kelly at 3. But okay, This is what the game's about. So we'll put her at 3. And now let's see our final video, which obviously is going to be our number 1 spot.
Comes the in-swinger again through traffic. It's off the bar. Oh, it's tipped away. And that is the record breaker.
Okay, she deserves it.
Yes, this is Alyssa Nair saving this ridiculous shot, tipping it, and then going over the goal. She has had 6 shutouts this season and was key to the Red Stars making it to the playoffs, which Okay, we will give U.S. Women's National Team and NWSL legend Alyssa Nair the #1 spot. As you said, she definitely deserves it. How do you feel about our final rankings? Would you change anything?
Yeah. I think I don't know about the Alyssa one. That one throws me off in the grand scheme of things. 3 goes to 5 for sure. Then maybe everyone just like shuffles down one.
Yeah, I mean, should we have put Kristen at 1? Just with the very first video, I'm like, does Kristen go to 1?
I feel like, oh my gosh, it's so many like peak moments too. Like they all have a little something to their story. I don't know. Maybe
hard is like the backstory for each of them are so special, but then I look at each individual video in a vacuum where like Kristen's goal and the celebration, even removed from her backstory, was probably the most exciting out of these videos. But like, this is why I can't play these games, because I overthink it with too much knowledge about the league.
At least it's done with. We don't have to do it again.
Well, that is it for our game of Blind Ranker NWSL Edition. But coming up, we will talk more soccer as I reveal my DraftKings picks of the week and Logan shares her latest good follow. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Good Follow. Before we get into our weekly picks, our partners at DraftKings have an offer that's perfect for any game day. Right now, new customers who bet $5 will instantly get $250 in bonus bets. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and sign up using promo code GoodFollow. That's $250 in bonus bets to spend on parlays, live betting, or picking straight up winners after betting just $5. And if sports betting is not yet available in your state, you can still join in on all the fun with DraftKings Daily Fantasy and have the shot to win cash prizes. Again, download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code GoodFollow for $250 in bonus bets instantly after betting just $5. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Okay, now it's time for this week's DraftKings Sportsbook picks. As we know, and we've already talked about, quarterfinals of the NWSL playoffs start this weekend. For pick of the week, I'm looking specifically at Gotham and Portland. Both teams, as we know, are stacked with star power. And like I mentioned earlier, for this one, I'm actually going to go with an upset and pick Portland to win. 2 players who are likely to score for Portland are Sophia Smith and Christine Sinclair, who is on her farewell tour as she retires at the end of the season. So Logan, I know that you may not have agreed with me on this one, but what are your final thoughts on this game?
I love the take. I don't think it's going to happen, but I do absolutely love the take. I think it's going to be a close one, even in the sense that Portland pulls ahead and then Gotham comes back. Okay. But when it comes down to it, I think Gotham's going to take it, especially if Esther is scoring. If Esther is scoring, they got this in the bag.
But you agree, it's going to be a game. It's going to be a game. It's not going to be a complete blowout.
Yeah, I see that.
Okay, well, we will find out how right or wrong I am over the weekend.
We should bet with DraftKings.
Okay, well, I'm down. I'm putting my money on it because I am a woman of my word. Well, as we know, the foundation of this show is that communities get built one good follow at a time, and each one of us will highlight a person, page, or brand as our good follow of the week. So Logan, you are up this week. Tell us, who is your good follow?
All right, my good follow of the week is one of my good friends, JT, aka JT Made That on Instagram. He is a fashion designer who makes pieces only for women's sports or female athletes. And he is one of the most hardworking and driven people I know. Anytime we have a conversation, it always comes up about what he wants to do next, what his goals are, and how he's going to conquer the fashion industry, which I absolutely love. But he makes these cool jackets, which you might have seen before, especially the ones with Together. I mean, Super. There's a video of Alex Morgan and Charlie walking in one. WNBA All-Star. You've seen them everywhere, and they're so incredibly cool. And then he also made this I Voted hoodie, which I've been seeing everywhere lately, even Dawn Staley rocking it. But it was so fitting this year. And honestly, I haven't seen a piece of merch or anything remotely, other than the stickers, remotely close to something as cool as this. But he also did drop with NCAA for women's basketball players. He's honestly everywhere, and he's going to conquer women's sports with his designing, and I'm so excited. And what I love about him is, as a person, he uses his platform to advocate for gender and racial equity, And I can definitely see that translating to designs in the future. So that's my good follow of the week. And everyone go follow JT Made That on Instagram.
You know, I'm a sucker for the overlap of fashion and sports. So it's an instant follow for me.
Oh, it's so good. The new pieces when they come out, sometimes I don't even know about them, but he'll just post like Lexi Hall walking in with the whole tracksuit. And I'm like, JT made that, quite literally.
Well, we want to hear from you, our fans. Who is your good follow?
Send your nominations to @GoodFollowShow and tell us why your good follow should be featured on our show.
Good Follow is brought to you by DraftKings. We'll see you again next week.